Hey there, Bob with Oregon's Constant Gardener. We're here in McMinnville, the Hotel Oregon, in beautiful downtown McMinnville, with one of the foremost experts in integrated pest management. I think in the world. At least in America. Maybe there's somebody else out there in Iceland that we don't know about, but you're my person here. So it's the Friday show, so we're just talking and integrated pest management and pests, and but more interestingly, what do you got going? You kind of had some changes in your careers and stuff. What's going on?
Yeah, so my name is Moriah LaChapell, and I in the past used to work for Evergreen Grower Supply, and I've changed companies, and I'm a licensed pesticide consultant. The company I work for is on a larger scale. So it's given me the opportunity to support more growers and educate more people, because there's more sales reps that can learn from me.
Oh, so that you can teach. You're teaching them as much as you are the public more now.
Exactly.
Okay.
And these people are agronomists, so they work in all kinds of different crops.
So and they know their stuff. They don't know your stuff, but they're very into their thing. And so this is a cool thing. It's a good thing all the way around, and you can maybe get your information out to more. That's what I thought you should have been doing all along. I mean, I guess you were, but I felt like you were just this incredible resource that was just like
my world has gotten a lot bigger.
You were in a tiny pond, now you're in like an Olympic-sized pool.
Yeah. So I'm thankful for what Evergreen provided.
Well, sure. Yeah, they're good people.
They are.
So, I guess since we got a little bit of time, I'd like to know how you got started with this whole thing.
So, I got my bachelor's degree in biology with plant emphasis from a little college in Monmouth, Oregon, called Western Oregon University.
I saw the sign on the way up.
Yeah. And then out of that, I worked for the Department of Agriculture for a while in the plant pathology department. And I found that I am not a lab personality, I'm an outside personality. So for a couple years, I worked in the wine industry. And I still work in the wine industry. And then I worked at Monrovia Nursery, 600-acre nursery just outside of McMinnville in Dayton.
What are they, you say nursery, like house plants, vegetable plants? What are they?
They grow 1,400 different varieties of plants.
Oh, wow.
Woody ornamentals, perennials, annuals. They have root aphid too.
The stuff you see in the Fred Meyer?
Well, they are branded. So they're the green pots with the Monrovia band around them.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
okay.
So, and when you're driving on I-5, you'll see their trucks sometimes too.
So they probably have pest problems just like everyone does.
And I was hired to help them with their beneficial insect program, which is they scout and release. They actually don't use any miticides at all in that 600-acre property.
So I assume this is ornamental type things?
Yeah.
So not for consumption. Well, go on with the story. So you worked at the nursery.
So I worked there for 3 years, and then I became the plant health manager at a 100-acre nursery. So my responsibilities included planning all the sprays for the 100 acres, watching the workers that I helped out.
So smaller place, more responsibility.
Protecting them because they use restricted use. They use more toxic pesticides. So I made it a personal responsibility with every recommendation that I made that I wasn't going to impact their health. So the more I could use beneficial insects and biopesticides, the better off everybody was. So I expanded that a bit, and I worked with Evergreen Grower Supply when I purchased my beneficials. And then unfortunately the company went into Fisher Farms as the company had some money problems. So the nursery was going to close, and that's how I ended up with Evergreen. And how our relationship developed was by, I thought I was going to jump in and do vineyards and nurseries, and things kind of went on a different path, and I'm thankful for the path.
You just never know. There's a really open kind of field, you know. It's I guess ignorant in some ways of not knowing what the rest of the world is about, but also very open to doing different things. It feels like to me anyway.
Yeah, and a lot of what the ag people do is what they call resistance management. Is why they introduce beneficial insects. It's because some of the miticides have been used for the past 60 years and they're not working as well. So they introduce the biocontrol so that they can get fewer sprays on the crop.
I gotcha.
So it's a little different, but it's similar.
Interesting. So you got to Evergreen, and what was it like when you were in this new position? Well, you were doing something totally different there. You were more theoretical and selling stuff.
Yes, I was a technical sales rep for them. So my job, which is still my job, is to field calls and make recommendations for growers, for anybody basically.
So people say IPM, and I was like, I first said, what is that? Integrated Pest Management. Still, even though I know what the 3 words mean, and I guess I know quite a bit about it on a theoretical level, I guess, how did the concept of it, what is it, where does it fit in? Does that make sense as a question?
Yeah. So integrated pest management just means to quit chasing your tail, because integrated means to bring together.
So it's a philosophy or an ethos more so than a specific set of recommendations.
Yeah, it's finding the most efficient product with a set of the ethos is the fact that this product is for human consumption in a different sort of way, so you don't want it to be toxic.
Sure.
So you don't want it to be toxic with anything.
No, but you have more latitude.
The focus is even more so the least toxic options. So integrated pest management is integrating a set of tools to find the best options. Biopesticides, beneficial insects, cultural practices. Cultural practices meaning the movement of the pest or disease. How did it come onto the place?
So how do I get started with that? Is there a method that you use to decide what you're going to do, or do you have a certain set of things that you do?
The method you use is careful planning. You look at your production, and you plan your production accordingly, and you think about what's happened in the past, what could happen in the present. That's how you put together your preventative programs, and then you think, well, if I do have a fire, how do I put it out? That's your eradication programs, your sprays.
Still confused. Let's just say I'm a new guy. How do I, I've got a plant, I've got a room, I've got a light, I'm watering my plant, I've got some nutrients, I've kind of got that figured out. How do I avoid having pest issues and going through 20 yards of crap to get to where I figure out the system?
By preventative releases of beneficial insects is a good route, and not just beneficial insects, but in general, you have to be familiar with what could happen: powdery mildew, botrytis, pest mites, root aphids. You got to identify the problems to be able to prevent them.
Sure. Okay.
So the first step is identifying. The second step is preventing, basically.
Okay. So your garden store or an expert or something like that could be helpful in this. Are there books on this? Is there anything? People can come into Oregon's Constant Gardener here.
In Oregon, there is the Oregon State University has a plant and insect management handbook. So you can go online and type Oregon State University Insect Management Handbook.
We'll do a link.
And then that has you can write spider mites in the search box, and it will overwhelm you with information, but that's good to be overwhelmed with information. And then another resource that unfortunately Oregon State University is federally funded, so they can't directly work with your industry, but they have a lot of resources. Okay. So,
and the plant is a plant to a great extent.
Exactly.
Okay.
The horticulture department.
Okay. So I guess I'm gonna come at it again. Step by step. What would my first step be? So let's just say I've got my room, I've got my lights, I've got my plant in there. Okay, maybe I don't have my plant. Maybe I'm starting off with a clone. So that's when clean my room.
Clean your room with Xeritol or with bleach or a product that you're reducing your what they call pest pressure, pest and disease pressure. Pressure means likelihood. So if your pressure is high, it means your likelihood is greater.
Would I want to design my room with less porous materials, like
definitely. Wood absorbs.
So having a lot of wood, you paint it?
Oh sure.
You paint the wood. You try to use some.
I'm sure people know, but there's some latex paints and things like that.
Okay.
That'll coat.
Okay. So having a place that's not healthful to the bugs, knowing what bugs are common to your crop. Preventing those with pesticides early on, and then controlling your temperature, your humidity, those
as
sorts
much
of
as
things.
you can afford it, and also growing your plants on benches as opposed to on the ground, so that the plants can breathe and be up high.
got to think there's different temperatures within the room. It's got to be hotter up near the lights. So ventilation.
Absolutely.
But is there problems with ventilation that I'm blowing stuff in or things? So can you just...
Well, not so much that as the fact that you need horizontal airflow.
Okay.
Over the plant. Horizontal airflow is the movement of air across a plant like that.
Okay.
What that does is it decreases the incidence of disease.
Why is
because it makes it more difficult for pathogens to sporulate. Botrytis, for example, is less likely to occur in windy conditions.
So
because it reduces the humidity.
If I was blowing straight down on it, would that be the same, or does it need to be?
Yeah, horizontal is better.
Horizontal.
It also actually increases calcium in the plant too. That movement, the plant movement, increases calcium.
Mechanically, within the plant, it creates a response. Okay. So I'm asking you all these questions, but I don't know enough to ask you the right question. What's the right question for you to ask you for someone that's trying to expand their horizons to get ahead of this thing? I think, and I'll go a little too long, is that people are like they're on the hamster wheel. Here it comes again. You know.
Well, how do I find good information? I think is the number one question, which is just stop going to the forums. Don't trust every piece of information that people give you.
Okay.
Like you and I were talking about a little earlier, vet the people that you get advice from.
I like the forums.
Well, everybody does. Because they're your friends.
Yeah.
And your friends know, and they have practical experience. But sometimes we are propagating so many myths, which cause more work for somebody like me.
It's like the roast.
The roast?
The roast. It's a long story, I'm sorry. So the mom is cutting the ends off the roast, and the daughter's like, "Why do you cut the ends off the roast?" And she's like, "Because Grandma does."
Yeah.
And so they call Grandma up, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't know. My grandma did it." And Great Grandma, thank God, is still alive. And they call her up, and like, "Great Grandma, why did you cut the ends off the roast?" And she said, "My pan was too small."
Yep.
So it's kind of that.
Yeah, like I had just recently had a discussion with another entomologist. You know, so many people think that hemp russet mite came from government biocontrol programs.
Absolutely, it was the man.
It's not. It's not the man. It's not the man.
What?
You know, and so you have to go back to these reasons and find the best resources that you can. So really, that's the question. Most of the growers that I work with are just doing their best to find the best information.
What would be a methodology or a system for finding good information, knowing you have good information?
When I was in college, I had my favorite professor went to Harvard, and he said when I look up information, I type .edu in my Google. And the reason why is because I know that that's probably been a published paper. So it means that it's been peer reviewed by people that have spent their life trying to study something. So, you know, you could do hemp russet mite, Aculops cannabicola.edu, and then you have, before you had thousands of pieces of paper to look at, now you maybe have 10.
Okay.
You know, so it's that, you know, the world is a big place, but you just have to distill it down to the best information.
Absolutely.
Which is, I drive my family crazy because I'm always researching. You know.
So, if you look at those papers, though, and it's probably complicated and very dry and very long.
Yeah.
So, I guess I know you're cool. I trust you.
Yeah.
I'm still going to look at some other stuff, but I trust you. How do I find you as opposed to not you?
Well, I do have a website I need to work on. It's mlachapelle.com. And what I did there was I put together just a little bit of basic information for growers there.
So perhaps you might look at things that if not from a peer-reviewed source, or at least from someone that consulted that and tried to distill it down too. Although I'm sure there's probably good information from all sorts of people that don't have a piece of paper on their wall.
Absolutely. It's just one way.
Especially when you're getting started, I'm sure that it's much more important when you're getting started with this to look at those verified sources, because you don't have any context. Your bullshit sensor may not be as finely attuned as Moriah's is.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and do with it. Look at, you know, the nursery industry in Oregon is a thriving industry.
looking at other industries.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like when you find really good information, it's where like people that are good at distilling information and putting it out there is where two things crossed. They were good at this, and at that point they're the foremost expert in the world, and they're an amazing source of information for that, whereas they wouldn't be that great at either one of these other things. So I guess that's the thing is at least being suspicious and curious about where the information you got come from.
Yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to. You don't have to do all my methods. I think it's more just making sure that don't trust everything.
Is it subjective or objective?
Because it's on the internet. It must be true. You know, that's.
So why is probably a valuable tool in your business?
Right. Exactly. Why?
Yeah.
And that's why, in my case, you know, I stick with the EPA registered pesticides that I can recommend because I know that they've been through a process. So it makes my tool set more narrow too.
Yeah.
And so you guys call me and you're like, you know, have you ever used, or do you know of X thing? And I'm like, actually no, because it's not registered. Does it work? Yeah. You tell me. So that's enough for one day. What are you up to? What do you do? What do you like to do? What do I like to do? Well, I've got a 7-year-old daughter. Her name's Lexi.
So that's
She's
what you're
wonderful.
doing.
I spent the weekend baking a cake. Harvest is coming up, so I'm going to be making some wine here in a bit.
So I saw that on your Facebook that you do the wine.
Yes.
How? Because I don't know anyone that does wine that doesn't have a vineyard.
Well,
so
yeah.
do you go get some grapes like at the Safeway?
Well, I do two things. I bug my friends to see if they have extra grapes. And sometimes they do, and other times they want to sell tons, which I don't want to buy. Or I use Craigslist, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Like last year I got wine grapes from Eola Amity AVA and made some great wine. So
very cool.
Yeah, but I have some aspirations for this year. I would honestly like to work on a book for you guys. We'll see what happens, because my best friend and I publish books together.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, it'd be as easy as submitting a manuscript and getting it published.
That would be nifty.
But I need another person for that. But, you know, so I am one that likes to do projects, to just keep developing myself as much as I can. So ultimately there might be another book out there.
Okay.
But so that's the thing is, it's mostly to be able to provide the best tools I can give people. It doesn't have to come from me. It really doesn't.
Sure.
It's more just, you know, simplifying your lives.
How would you simplify your life with regard to, I'm going back into it again, we're just getting started all over.
That's okay.
With planting and growing a crop, where would simplifying, we're almost done, I'm sorry.
Good soil. Good soil that you can trust. And disease and pest-free cuttings. And of course, if you're starting from seed, as much as you possibly can, because you're less likely to have incidents.
Okay.
So clean stock, clean room.
So would you have like a little propagation area separate where you grow your seeds into starts?
Oh yeah,
and then you'd have a little start area that's separate from that?
Oh yeah.
And then you'd have your grow room.
Yeah, and then people that work on a larger scale, they tend to hopefully plan their workers' work for not spending the day in the cleanest part of the facility and ending the day in the dirtiest. Or not going.
It's like with the left and the right hand and the washing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Common sense as far as clean. You know, I used to have a detail shop. I did cars. You start at the top of the car and wash down, because there's all the grimy on the bottom, and then you can get all that stuff on your mitt, and you wipe the top and scratch it.
Yep.
Plus you can see the top better. It's the same kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and in integrated pest management, there's this concept. It's called critical control point. A critical control point means, how am I bringing this problem in? What's most critical?
I gotcha. Okay.
How do I control it?
So working clean, thinking about what you're doing, and looking at what's happening.
Yeah.
And thinking ahead.
Yeah.
Is that? I don't even know what I just said.
All of it's true. And then talking to somebody that you trust too, somebody that has grown themselves or has spent time. You know, people like you guys, you know.
Them, not me really. I'm more of a talker than an advisor.
In other words, when you get yourself in a pickle, It's about being humble and realizing you have a problem.
I think that's a lot of what I've been successful with in this, and I've just started growing just recently, is that I didn't know anything about it, but I had access to some really amazing people, and I just asked at every turn. There's no stupid question. I mean, you say there's no stupid question, they look at me like it's a stupid question, but they still answer it, and I'm like, it wasn't a stupid question to me, because I didn't know. Yeah, so.
You're not asking about chemtrails, you're okay.
Don't get to start with the chemtrails. I know people smarter than you that totally believe it.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm kidding.
I know. But I don't know. We should have a show about that. Just that one topic. Anyway, that's the Friday show. Thank you so much for coming. Well, you didn't. I came to you.
Yeah,
you should thank me.
Thank you for coming to me. I would have driven, but
Oh no, the foot. But I if you'd been in another town, I probably wouldn't have. But I love it here.
Oh, I
like
to
just drive through.
Yeah.
So.
It's the perfect place to live. I mean, I got to tell you, it feels a little Stepfordy sometimes, but it's a great place. So.
Like a big square dance.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's the show. For more information about anything on today's show, go to our website, OCGFAM.com. The OCGFAM show, it's pretty good. It happens every day. It's the OCGFAM show. See you on Monday.